Yeah, John.
Yep.
What's that called?
That's called Flying Scotsman.
Flying Scotsman, which is a train, but in this case, it was actually John.
Yes, it's about an imaginary train that runs in Scotland in the Highlands, but it goes between whisky distilleries.
Oh, really?
So it's full of tourists that are a wee bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, just at the back of my house here, there's actually a railway line down there. It's a bit of a wave, but you can look. I always tell people I've got my own train set at the bottom of my garden because it's a little bit of a way across fields and everything. But the Flying Scotsman goes past there sometimes, and the Highland Clansman goes through there twice. Goes down to London from Inverness, and. The Mallard, that's another one. Right. The steam train.
Plenty of time for a wee drink in the train.
Yeah, there is. And that's when you can always tell when the steam trains are coming, because I look out the back of the house and there's all these guys, usually with beards and glasses, a bit like myself, with binoculars and kind of waiting for the train to go by. Anyway, we digress.
Yes.
We're going into train mode.
Yep.
That's a great piece of music, and
it's a bit of fun. Literally, fun enough, it was touring probably in Asia and talking to loads of people that love Scotland, and a lot of times people were saying, "Oh, we love Scotland, we love the whisky distilleries and blah blah blah." And a concept came to mind of a train that just went around distilleries, so the tourists would get off, have a tour of the distillery, have a wee dram, get back on the train, go to the next distillery, and they could just gradually get sort of more drunk as the day goes on, I think. So it was a sort of funny thing in my head, and
it
also
would be very popular.
It's the only solo piece I play with a pick, actually, just to get that.
Oh yeah.
That kind of sound with it. Yeah.
But one of the things that happened, actually, I was talking earlier on about the difference between Scottish and Irish music, but there was a band in Ireland who really did so much to revitalise sort of Celtic music. It was Moving Hearts.
Yeah.
And I was always been a big fan of Moving Hearts, and then there's a number of bands here in Scotland that then really kept just playing the traditional music, the melodies, but then they put like a bit of a rock thing.
I think so. I mean,
jock rock. They call it.
Jock rock. I mean, I sort of, because I didn't know any traditional music, I think.
You don't know any jazz, you don't know any traditional music.
That's right.
You only know status quo.
What else is there? No, I mean, I think the traditional music, I think you're either brought up with it in Scotland or you're not, and I wasn't. So I think it's quite, like we were saying earlier on, it's quite hard to pick up on traditional music if you don't know. It's not easy to slip into it. I mean, jazz for me makes more sense. So if you're playing a jazz tune, it makes a bit more sense. The harmony makes more sense to me. The traditional stuff doesn't really. Some of my best friends in the business are traditional players, and I work with them. My own string quartet's got some of the best Celtic players in the country in it, but it's a slightly different world. But I quite like the idea of I've never really wanted to be doing one thing, you know, whether it's rock or jazz or whatever. I like the mix of stuff. That's what keeps me interested. So if I write a piece of music that's maybe more Celtic or more jazzy or whatever, that's just how I write, I think.
When
really.
you get stylized music, and you get it in jazz, and you get some musicians, various of all the instruments, who specialize in a style.
Yeah.
And they keep that style going. I can think of somebody like a saxophone player, Scott Hamilton, who plays very much in that Lester Young, real. I love that way of saxophone playing.
Yeah.
It's set into that style, and of course now the whole gypsy jazz thing, which is something stylized music. And I think it's very important to have players that really understand the music and keep that style alive. But then there's another thing, that if everyone just does that, the music it'll kind of die, it'll kind of wear itself out.
Yeah.
So all music doesn't come in isolation. It becomes because there's so many influences from all over the place that if we don't keep our ears open and incorporate some of those, the music can die, and it's kind of an organic process, but it's a very fine line. Because you can say, well, I'm going to jazz up some Bach, or I'm going to jazz up something, then you go, well, it's got to, I mean, Jacques Lussier did a wonderful thing with that because he understood the music so well. But you know, if you can say, oh, I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to put a backbeat on it, and you know.
I never really like fusion when that came out, sort of like jazz and rock fusion. I would just rather hear really good rock or really good jazz. I'm not a big fan of that kind of. I mean, I know some people are brilliant at it, but it's not really. It doesn't do anything for me personally. I would rather just hear somebody playing a great standard. I think one of the things I learned from, I've spent quite a bit of time with bluegrass musicians, and what I noticed with them is they're all perfectly happy just playing the tune. You know, just paying tribute to the tune, try to play it as good as they can. Especially the old timey players. Obviously, it's, you know, not even a dominant chord. It's very, very simple stuff. If you sit and play with them, I couldn't see what the attraction was at first until I actually got involved in it a little bit. Then it was amazing, but I couldn't tell you why it was amazing. Everything was really simple. They just played. Well, you know what it's like. And the bluegrass players, I mean, obviously there's a lot of amazing bluegrass players, and technically some of it's fantastic, but they seem to be able to just be happy just playing the tunes, which I quite like. And I think maybe even with traditional, like Scottish or Irish music, I think I just like people playing the tunes.
Yes, it's not just playing the tunes, it's interpreting the tunes.
Interpreting tunes,
that's really what it is, I guess. I knew nothing about bluegrass music, and until when I started touring the States with Stefan Grappelli, we started working with David Grisman sometimes. And Stefan had a big following amongst the bluegrass people. So through that, I kind of had bluegrass people coming to see me play as well. And I played on some records too, even though I don't play that music. But there was a big connection actually between, well, there's a big Scottish connection, of course, with bluegrass, because this is kind of where it all came from. The same tunes, but played with a different kind of feel. But also, there is a strong connection, and I don't know why exactly, between bluegrass and the kind of Hot Club of France.
Yeah, definitely.
The two definitely.
There's
always a strong attraction between the two. That's why all the bluegrass people used to come and see us play.
Yeah, I think
in the States,
things like Honeysuckle Rose or whatever, those type of tunes, they seem to cross over. I find that fascinating
because they're good melodies and they can play them.
And also the bluegrass guys, they have a different feel, obviously, from the jazz people, but it both works, which is great. And I think it's because they're not trying to be clever; they're just trying to play the music well. I think that might be wrong there, but I think that's my experience. I mean, plus bluegrass is. I've just written some stuff that's more in the bluegrass vein, and for all the time I've been playing the guitar, I've actually had to redo my right hand technique. I've redone it about 3 times to try and get
bluegrass guitar
to try and get the.
You get someone like Brian Sutton.
So
Tony Rice, of course. I worked with Tony Rice. Just quite amazing.
It's that downstroke thing, isn't it? And so I've been reworking, because I've written a few things and they're quite fast. That's the thing you were saying earlier. I've written something that sounds great in my head, but unfortunately I can't get it onto my
bluegrass. You're saying about playing the melody. Bluegrass players always have really good time. And good phrasing. Because they're focusing on the melody.
Yeah.
And they have to play it right.
Yeah.
It has to be
Yeah,
in time.
yeah.
So
No,
they
there's
all have
definitely,
really
yeah.
good time.
I mean, when I sat down, I kind of got what I wanted to roughly quite soon. After I started, I wrote the thing in my head, and then I was playing it. Then when I started messing about with it, I thought it's not quite right. It's not as good as it could be. And then I started sort of looking at those kind of what do you call it, like rest strokes, where you're always going.
Oh yeah. So is it always going down?
Every new string is down. So
Yeah.
first of all, I was doing that type of.
I think I play like that anyway.
I think you probably do,
do,
yeah,
yeah.
because it helps with the
Always-
accenting
yeah.
bits. So
Just to do it time.
yeah,
you can really
but because
nail
it was fast, I think I went for. That's just straight up and down.
See, that goes back to your electric guitar days.
That's right.
That's
so,
what that is.
And then when I've done this, the other way around.
That's how I play it. If I could play that.
Yeah, I can't play that. That makes two of us. But that's doing what you would. I think but also it must help your phrasing, because when you're playing,
is.
and I think that's the thing with the phrasing, it's the downstroke thing.